Hello and welcome again to the Dad Whisperer. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson. And once again, I'm so excited that we get to spend these next 26 minutes together talking about something that I know is close to the heart of God, which is dads who are turning their hearts, not just their heads, towards their kids. And I know if you're new to the show, you may not have heard my tagline, but it's on my website, which is just helping dads become heroes. And I know that you as a dad want to be a hero. And your kids want and need you to be a hero. So this is win-win as you as a dad are equipped with more tools in your fathering toolbox to better connect with your daughter's hearts. And as you know, that's really where my specialty lies between dads and daughters. And yet I've had so many men say, this applies to my wife and my sons as well. And I go, bingo, because these are about how you as a dad connect to the heart space of your kids, whether they're a girl or a boy. So let's get this race started. I always say, on your mark, get set, go every time, because I want you to have a template, a grid that you can hang the new material on week by week. And then you're like, I know where we're going, right? I don't have to ask for directions because it's the same map every time. So on your mark is the theme. Get set is where I fill it in with stats, with stories that make that concept come alive. And then go. Every week I give you an action step so that you can do something, right? Men say, tell me what to do to fix it. And I say, well, I will do just that for you. So today I am going to do a 2-part series. I haven't done that before, so you guys will have to let me know how you like that. And this week we're going to be talking about the concept of royalty. And next week, we are going to be talking about romance. So as you know, Valentine's is just a week from tomorrow. So this is about how, again, at this time of year, I don't want to say milk it, but really connect at an emotional level. That's what I mean by heart level. In view of the fact that this is where romance is in the air, right? You can feel it everywhere. Don't you? You see it on commercials or you go to the store and it's all about Valentine's Day. So why not use that, dads, as a time of year to say, well, I want to learn better how to engage my daughter in a place that she's actually wired by God to live in, which has to do with these two concepts of royalty and romance. And I have a different twist on it today because my title, this is the On Your Mark, is Royalty, what it means to raise a warrior princess, not just a princess. Sometimes dads will say, oh my word, that sounds like I just want to raise a prima donna, that thinks she's all that. And we have enough entitled mentality in millennials today anyway. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that girls across the board, I'm telling you, I've talked all the way down to girls as young as 5th grade up to adults that have opened up to me, and I'm going to talk about myself too, this concept of what it means to connect with this princess or queen mentality. And so we're just going to, break this apart today. So in case you're like, oh, I'm not listening to this one today, this doesn't apply to me. Well, give me a chance. Okay, don't shut the radio off yet. Let's get the conversation started, and you can let me know what you think about the concept. How about when we're done? Sound good? Because I always love hearing from you. Just write me at drmichelle@thedadwhisperer.com. And you can always write to me. If you forget that, just go to my website, which is just drmichellewatson.com. You can write me there and let me know how these concepts sit with you or don't sit with you or questions you have, because I want this to be interactive. Sound good? Okay, well, here we go. Let's do the get set part. This whole idea of royalty, being a princess or maybe even a queen, I can honestly tell you after my 35 plus years of walking alongside teenagers and 20-something girls is that I really believe this touches the heart of most every girl or woman I know. Now, I would never call myself, when I think back through the years, a girly girl. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't really into frills and sparkles. And so I'm really not into the blingy thing. But I can tell you honestly that even though I've tried to be tough, when I was in a band for a couple years, I would lift the sound equipment. And I remember once someone saying, I'd hate to run into you in a dark alley. And I'm like, you know it. I got all this strength in me. And I look back now and go, here I was in my late 20s thinking that my strength was to keep up with guys was about physical prowess. And I now think, oh my word, I was so off course of what it really means to be a woman. And I want you dads, again, to have more insight into how to affirm feminine beauty in your girls. What does that look like? Because it looks really different because we're all wired different. And yet, even though I've not been a girly girl, I've always loved this idea of princesses. In fact, I can remember it was 1981 and Princess Di in England married Prince Charles. Well, she wasn't a princess at the time, right? When they married. The fairy tale was magical. I loved watching the footage and seeing what her dress looked like. I mean, another way, I'm just talking about this princess thing. If you're a dad of a daughter, I want to ask you this question is, has she ever dressed up like a princess for Halloween? Probably more as a little girl, but that whole idea of princess and Disney capitalizing on that theme, I don't think we have to look very far to see how much of a grip that idea of being a princess in make-believe has on little girls. In fact, even I think of the fact that more now I'm opening the door for little kids as they come and ring my bell at Halloween and say trick or treat. Love those little princesses with the little tiaras. They look so cute. I mean, I even Googled Disney princesses just to kind of see the current lineup. And we know the old version was Snow White or Rapunzel or Cinderella. But the more current versions have been Jasmine and Ariel and Belle and Pocahontas or Mulan. Some of them are born into royalty. Some of them marry in. But what I found is interesting is to watch how Disney has changed the princess theme through the years. Like the old version was more the dainty, needing a prince to kiss her, to wake her up from her sleep or whatever. And it wasn't about her identity as royalty. You know what I mean? You've probably seen that. But more recently, movies like Brave have this, redheaded girl with curls all over, and she's strong, or Mulan, where she's a warrior princess. Or how many of you have seen Frozen? I mean, I've seen so many variations on that song, Let It Go, where even sometimes it's dads and daughters singing that song together. And in it is Princess Anna, and then her sister Elsa is a snow queen. You see, again, it's the theme of princess. And even though those girls didn't have to marry in, Disney knows that there's something about that theme. In fact, I was even looking up to see what the revenue is for Disney, which we know that the princess theme is a huge part of really their repertoire. In 2013, they passed $45 billion. So I think even if you as a dad are going, my daughter's really not wired that way, which I know they're not all wired that way, there's I would say, more of a majority of our population that really resonates with that theme. So I have a funny story to tell you. A couple of years ago, actually probably about 4 years ago, is we were having an ABBA project, the group I lead for dads, discussion on this concept of royalty. And a couple of the dads knew each other, their families knew each other. And one of them was saying, I don't really think my wife is all that into this. Maybe my daughters. But one of the other guys, I wish I would have had a camera rolling, said, yeah, your wife is into it. Last year, when Prince William married Kate Middleton in England, this was 2011, he said, your wife and my wife had a sleepover. Remember that night where they were having a girls' night? Well, yeah. They stayed up. They got up. At 3 a.m., they were watching the wedding in England. He goes, they were? I'm like, see, there's something about this concept of royalty that I don't care what age we are. I think we as women honestly want to be the chosen one. We want the fairy tale, that magical spark that happens when we put a tiara on and have this title of princess. There's something I believe that God has put into the heart of women that awakens to know that we're that special. And I think for you as dads, if you can understand that it's not just a daughter going, I'm all that, I'm so special, treat me like royalty where I can't do anything wrong and I get everything I want, you'll be missing the boat of really what her heart is about in relationship to this issue. So I have done, as you've heard me talk about before, some interviews with daughters between the ages of 13 and 30 so that you can hear what they're saying matters to them about different concepts. And one of those things has been to ask girls, are you into this theme of princess, or do you think it's kind of bogus or stupid? Because I don't want to just stack the deck in favor of this concept being a universal theme if it's not. So let me read to you a couple of responses, a few responses, just to give you a flavor of what daughters have said between 13 and 30 when I asked them, what do you think of this whole theme about princesses? One girl said, I love princess stories about ordinary girls who find out that they are royal. There was a movie called Princess Diaries. There was a couple of them, and that was her story. Another girl said, my favorite was Belle. That was Beauty and the Beast. Remember that story? Because if you're a dad, you probably watched these movies over and over with your girls when they were little, right? Because she wants that magical fairy tale story to be her own. But this gal said, my favorite story was Belle because she was ordinary and yet a beautiful woman who ended up finding love in a not-so-handsome beast. I loved seeing how she transformed into a princess herself and transformed the beast into a prince. You see how this girl wanted to know that she had influence and impact, maybe even power to bring change to a guy. That's where a lot of girls get stuck. We're going to be talking about dating later on this year because girls think, I can fix him up. That's not the reason to be choosing that guy. That's where you dads come in to shield her heart. But anyway, this girl said, I love that part of that Beauty and the Beast story. Another girl said, a princess in a movie, I always see that she has the, quote, perfect life. You hardly see her upset or hurt. She's beautiful and often desirable among the people she knows. You see, that's what girls are telling me that matters to them. And then I had another one say, I'm not into the princess theme. It's never grabbed me. Okay, that's fair. Well, let me just take a moment and stop in case you're just joining in now so that you know who you're listening to. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson, and this is the Dad Whisperer. You know, I've authored a book for dads called Dad, Here's What I Really Need From You, a guide for connecting with your daughter's heart. And really, my joy is to help equip dads to become more competent and then more confident in their fathering of their daughters. And dads say it applies to their sons. You can go to my website, drmichellewatson.com, where I have free resources. You can sign up for my Dad Daughter Friday blogs. And a new thing is I now am going to be having podcasts on my website. So you can go to iTunes and even sign up to listen to these programs over and over, or go to my website where I have them on audio. Well, let's get back to the theme today, royalty. Royalty, 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 in preparation for Valentine's Day, what it means to raise a warrior princess. So I also asked some girls, now that you're older, do you ever think about being a princess anymore? And if you did bring, quote, the princess back to your life, how would it impact you? Here's what some girls said. I guess I don't label it as being a princess, but I guess I do when I think about feeling empowered and deserving of being treated well. If I did bring the princess back, I guess I would be the woman I dream about being. Isn't that powerful? I wouldn't worry about doing the wrong thing or being judged. It would be liberating. Wow. Another girl said, if I brought the princess back, it would mean that I would love myself, just like the princesses loved themselves and weren't afraid to show their beauty. Another one said, I don't think so much about being a princess. However, I do think often that the same concept crosses my mind frequently. The idea that we want to be beautiful, desired, wanted, and known is still something I would think about. So then I asked, what messages about being a girl and being pretty and beautiful did you get from the movies you watched? And I have more responses than I have time today to talk about, but just to give you an idea, one girl said, I think I get the messages more from movies now that the size 2s with the perfect man are what you have to be happy. Another one said, I learned that you had to be physically beautiful to attain those princess dreams. Wow, you have to be physically beautiful to obtain those princess dreams. And often girls are saying, I don't measure up to that image, so I will never be able to have my dreams come true. Girls got messages about how to dress, about how to act. Even I think the Little Mermaid gives up her voice in order to have a perfect body. Oh my word. We could unpack that one a lot, but let's move on. In fact, this concept today about what does it mean to raise a warrior princess, that was a concept that has intrigued me this week. And I want to tell you about a conversation I had with a girl here in a few minutes this week. But I want to tell you about a book that capitalizes on this theme because one of my friends, Lee Bloom, just wrote it. It's coming out March 1st. And it's actually called Brave is the New Beautiful. You see this concept about being a beautiful princess, if it's cloaked in the concept of bravery, I hear women that I've interviewed say, that's what I really love, is that you have a knowing inside of you that says, I can lead, I can make a difference, I can influence, I can impact. Dads, that's what you want to fan into flame in the hearts of your daughters. And I want to ask you, how are you doing that today? Are you letting her have your support as she's out on the basketball court? In fact, I had a dad just this week tell me that his daughter didn't have a good basketball game this week. And she personally didn't do well, even though the team won. And she had her head hung low. And he goes, I did that stupid things dads do, where I was telling her, hon, I know you tried and I saw where you missed here. He goes, I used to coach her. And she, after about a minute, she's a senior in high school, said, Dad, can you just stop it? And she starts crying as she hugged Mom. And he goes, I can't believe I blew it. I didn't tell her you were a warrior. You were brave. You didn't quit. You got out there on the court, on the floor, and you fought hard, even though you weren't playing well. Dads, that's what your daughters need to hear. And the dad I'm telling you about turned it around. He said he drove home from the game in his own car because he had 2 cars. And he goes, man, I just had to get right before God. And I asked her to forgive me later and said, I blew it. You needed me to cheer you on. And all I did was highlight what you didn't do right. So you guys, Brave is the New Beautiful comes out March 1st. And incidentally, this woman, Lee Bloom, in the book, every chapter is highlighting a different woman that she sees as beautiful. And yep, yours truly is in it. I'm one of the chapters, which is such an honor to me. So let's go on to this concept of what does it mean to raise a warrior princess. This week, I was talking to my friend Alan Smith, who used to be a Young Life regional director in LA for 25 years, because I was reading his blog this week that's on his website, which is myfatherdaughter.com. He wrote a book called Prized Possession with his friend Christy Fox, and he was just writing about royalty in relation to women. And I was like, Alan, can I quote you? Because I'm writing on that. I'm talking on that right now. And here's what he said is, I have traveled around and spoken on this concept to girls, to a whole room full of adolescent girls. And he said, without fail, their eyes fill with tears when they hear me talk about royalty. Because he said, they haven't heard it before. And their soul is longing to be valued because it was created to be. And here's what I want to quote Alan is saying. He says in his blog, you women are royalty because you are an heir to God's kingdom. I'm like, thank you, Alan. I preach that message to girls. But coming from a dad of a daughter, a dad who's an influencer, a leader, who works with adolescent girls in different contexts, you saying that has impact and power. And dads, you can steal from Alan, borrow from him, and say this to your girls. You are royalty because you are an heir to God's kingdom. You are a picture, Alan says, of class, of power, of position, and nobility. And he says to them, when you show up, girls, the angels pause. You are a big deal to God. He is crazy about you, and your worth comes from him. Value is always established by the maker. And God is your maker. And he says you are priceless, valuable, and sacred, period. He says, period, end of story, exclamation point. And then he adds, if your value comes from God, no human can take it away. No words, no songs, no pictures or people can change your worth. And then he says, my challenge to you as women is this: live like you know this is true and step into your rightful place in the universe. He adds, men, which now I'm saying this to you through Alan, from his heart to yours as men. He says, men, please speak this message to your daughters and the women in your life. And I'm asking you, Dad, does your daughter really know? Not because you told her a year ago or 6 months ago, but does she know it today and believe that she's loved and valued by you by the way that you have treated her and affirmed her? I had an awesome interaction after Alan's blog with a woman who ended up saying, as we wrote back and forth on Facebook this week, she said, okay, can we all just be warrior princesses? I love that idea more than just princesses. She put, that's more my jam. So as I wrote back and forth, here's what she said. I have 2 small daughters, and I have had a lot of time to ponder princesses. She said, I feel like the average princess is born into and handed this magical life. But the warrior princess, and then she put in parentheses, our favorite right now is Moana, which is again a Disney movie. But she says, my girls are really into that warrior princess theme, and I am backing it up. So go mama. And she said, because this warrior princess idea is about being on a journey and a conquest to fight for what's good, for her name, to leave her mark. She said that's what this Moana movie is about, which I haven't seen it, but that's what she said. She said it isn't an idle happenstance, but a journey of challenges, bravery, success, and failure. Dads, did you catch that? Your daughters need to know that they can fail in the process of being a warrior princess and that their identity as a valued daughter of the king, your daughter is still secure. That what she does to blow it can happen under your roof as you're helping her perhaps face the consequences of a poor decision, but that she never feels that her position securely as a daughter of you, a daughter of the king, is in jeopardy, because that's part of the learning process. And if you look honestly at yourself, you know that was part of your learning process too, wasn't it? Yeah. So this woman on Facebook went on to say, I've worked hard for everything in my life and no one has ever treated me like a princess, and I'm so thankful for that. I can only see myself as a warrior princess. She said, I guess that's why I love the imagery so much. And I come, listen to this line, from a long line of warrior princesses who know nothing different. Happy to pass on the baton to the next generation. Her final line was, let's be honest though, Sleeping Beauty got the best gig. Isn't that adorable? So here's the deal, dads. If you look at the Bible, and I know that oftentimes I want to have what I'm teaching on, speaking on, challenging you on, comes from the Word of God or is based there. So you remember that even God creating, right, us as women to be drawn to this concept of royalty ties to the fact that we're daughters of the King. So you remember when Pilate said to Jesus right before he went to the cross, so you are a king, right? He said, yep. And Jesus answered, you say correctly that I am a king. So if we are co-heirs with Christ, that makes us royalty. Dads, you can affirm royalty in your daughters because that's the truth of their identity to God. And I have a friend named Julia Swanson. She's 29 years old. Her dad, Clay Swanson, is my Abba Project co-leader. Right now, she's fighting the battle of her life with leukemia. She spent the last year, almost to the day, fighting this. And this week I said, Julia, as you're preparing to get a bone marrow transplant, here any day from your brother, you are a warrior princess because you're not giving up. You don't quit. You have courage and spades, and you're trusting God's plan. Dads, that's what you can tell your daughters. Here's what it looks like to be a warrior princess. And in my eyes, you are one. I know we're running out of time here, and I got to end with my go challenge to you, which comes from asking daughters, how can your dad fan into flame this idea of making you feel more like a royal princess of the Most High God? Here's what they said. Dad, initiate dates with me. I want one-on-one time with me where you're looking at me. And I know that's hard for some of you because your daughters are at that age where like, Dad, get out of here. But over and over, dads, I hear girls say, but if my dad actually had an idea and took me somewhere where I really wanted to go or takes me somewhere I want to eat, I would say yes. So don't give up. Even if she tells you 6 times, I don't want to go for the 7th. Initiate times with her. That's what daughters have said they want, to make them feel that they're valued and worthy. Ask your daughter, what dreams do you have? You could even ask her, how could I bring the princess back? How could I bring the princess back? Were you into that as a little girl? How could I bring that back for you now? Ask her that question on your one-on-one outing. Let her tell you and do that one thing she tells you. I know it can be overwhelming sometimes to know how to lead your daughters, but if you ask that question, you will get a response. Or say, think about it and get back to me. Girls said, a way that my dad could make me really feel like a princess is affirm my beauty. Tell me what you see, not just on the inside of me, my inner beauty, but tell me what you see as beautiful outside. Tell her you love her eyes or the way they show, her heart through her eyes. Affirm her beauty. Embrace her femininity. Open doors for her. Chivalry. It's not dead. Every time a man opens the door for me, I tell him, thank you for that. It makes me feel valued. So give her chivalry. And the last thing I'll say is every day, let her know that she is your valuable warrior princess, that she's beautiful and smart just the way she is. Well, this wraps up another show. Here we go. Into this week, Dad's Royalty. What does it mean to raise a warrior princess? If it was too much information, you can listen back by going to drmichellewatson.com. Write to me at drmichelle@thedadwhisperer.com. Get out there today, dads, and let your daughter know that she has value and worth to you. Go, dads.